The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I need you to knock some sense into me. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
I enjoy listening to you. I don't always agree with everything.
All right, enough of this persiflage.
So, you want my question?
I'm certainly not going to get myself in trouble by telling you what to do.
That makes great sense. Gosh, that's good.
That I overwhelm you with words and wisdom?
I've got 7 kids. I feel like I could call you every day.
Wait, you're telling me I'm wrong? Disconnect.
Yes, I am, Dr. Ray.
You just need to tune in to Dr. Ray, honey. He's got all the answers.
Am I right or am I right?
Probably.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
She doesn't sound all that confident, you know that? He's kind of a hesitant, probably. I didn't give her any choices. Right or right. Dr. Ray Grandi here. Program Doctor Is In. The variant of the program, Look Back Friday. Got some calls. We haven't gotten to these. These came from a few months back. Andrew Kruchek, my producer man, edits them. And then we play the call, not always in its entirety, but in the select parts of it that will act as springboards for me to talk a little bit more about something that came up during the call that I couldn't elaborate on, or maybe a term used, or some side issue that I wanted to bring up, but it would have taken me too far afield, especially if we had other folks waiting to talk on the program. So those calls are sitting up there now, and we will get to them. There's a variety here. A variety. You got a 7-year-old, a 33-year-old, a sister, adult grandson. So we'll find out a little bit about what's happening there. I have noticed when people are asked, and this is particularly true of pundits, perhaps political figures, there is a communicative habit that's ugly. I think that it's easily done even in normal conversation. The implications of it are not good. What am I referring to? Let's say you ask me a question, and you say, Ray, I want to get your opinion on my daughter at age 17 wanting to quit high school. And I start my answer with, listen. Now, that's very commanding, isn't it? That struck me as I've heard an awful lot of interviewees begin their answer that way. Or, a parallel word, look. In other words, I am dictating to you to pay attention. I don't know why this is so common. One of my explanations is that we tend to, by osmosis, pick up on speaking styles. The word well is used constantly to answer any question. I would probably say at least 80% of the time when someone is being interviewed on radio, TV about a subject that they particularly have experience in, or their own personal experience of something that they want to share with the viewing, listening audience, they'll start out with, well. They will start out with, but particularly pushy are the words look and listen. They imply, you need to pay attention to me. Look, the reason people do that, listen, I think that as though if I don't say listen, they're not going to listen. Or I don't know what I want them to look at. Apparently, look at my reasoning. Could say, think. or pay attention, or watch out. All of which say, I'm going to say something really important to you now. And you need to focus on it. Now, some might say, you're kind of being a little picky here about language, aren't you, Ray? Well, being a shrink, what you got to do is listen to language. That's the coin of the realm in therapy or counseling. Trying to understand somebody, you got to listen to the words they use. You got to listen to how they use the words. You got to, in between the lines, try to figure out what they're saying. You got to connect this sentence to a sentence they said 12 minutes ago. So you have to hyper-focus on the way they phrase things. It's very hard for me. My wife sometimes will be watching something on TV, and she'll look at me because she'll know I'm just getting ready to comment on this. And she'll say, Ray, I go, yeah, okay. Look, I'm going to take a break here a little bit, you know what I mean? So listen. And there's a certain emphatic pronunciation to both of those words. It's not a plea. It's not a look or would you listen? No. It's listen. And I can't help but wondering what's the motive for using those words. Is it just a habit? Just a way of talking? Is it to fill up a little bit of time until you formulate the thought you were going to say? Or is it something more? Is it stressing that my opinion needs to be taken into account here? Because it's very accurate, formidable, and it's something you should seriously consider. I don't know. I just thought about that. I made a little note here in my book. Comment on starting answers with look and listen. Sometimes parents do that in lectures. You notice that? Kid does something, and we want to try to straighten out their thinking on it. Now listen to me. We do that. You look here, young man. I guess those are kind of variety words. You can use them in a bunch of contexts. But I got to take a break here. So when I get back, I hope you'll listen.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
Hello, Steve Ray here from Footprints of God Pilgrimages. Want to celebrate some amazing anniversaries this year in France? We'll visit Normandy Beach to celebrate our heroic military for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Also, the 100th anniversary of the canonization of St. Therese of Lisieux. Join us this October for our Saints and Shrines of France and a visit to the newly renovated Notre Dame Cathedral.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net.
You like pizza? Me too. And for that, we can thank our friend Tom Monahan. First, he starts with $900 and opens one pizza shop. Then it's worldwide, thousands of shops. But all this was just a warm-up for his greatest achievement yet. He built a university.
God inspired Tom to build up generations of men and women who have a hunger to reach the world for Christ. This place is Ave Maria University.
Visit avemaria.edu to see what's next.
Thank you for joining me, Dr. Ray Guarendi, program The Doctor is In. My producer man and editor for these calls is Andrew Kruchek over there in Ann Arbor. EWTN and Ave Maria Radio Communications cooperate to produce this program. Some 20 years now. I couldn't believe they got me right out of high school. That's just amazing. Let's see what we got on the docket here. That's it. Yeah, I got enough time for it. Ed is calling from Michigan. He has a 33-year-old son, addicted. And if I recall the call correctly, which would be a recall, he wonders about bailing this young man out.
So, yeah, our youngest is 33 years old, raised in a Catholic family, and one time had what I would call strong Catholic faith. And anyway, you know, life has gone on, and he's 33 years old now. And about 2.5 years ago, came to our attention that, you know, he was suffering from a drug addiction. And it was crack cocaine, and we sent him off to rehab. And after rehab, 11 days later, he had another relapse. And anyways, it goes back further than that. Our son has always had, I'll say, social issues. I've known that ever since he's a little boy, and my wife and I both think maybe he has maybe there's some sort of mental disorder here too. I don't know, but anyway, so he's had these ups and downs, and he does not live at home. He has his own house, and we helped him buy it, but he paid us all back. It was great. But, you know, in the past few years, if we wouldn't have been there to bail him out, he would have lost his house. To complicate things, he's a type 1 diabetic, so he has real medical needs. He needs his insulin or he won't live. And he works for my wife at her business full time, and he wouldn't be employable anywhere else with the, you know, amount of work that he misses due to his habits. And anyway, I just wonder if we're enabling him, and if we need to let him hit rock bottom, if that costs him financially and us financially by him losing us business, losing his job, and losing his health insurance. And, you know, if we have to buy him insulin later on or whatever to help him get by, I don't know. I'm just kind of beside myself and just, again, wondering if we're just enabling him to let him keep going. He doesn't want to go back to rehab. He won't go to AA or any other kind of meetings. So it's caused difficulty with my wife and I because we don't always agree on what to do. And again, I'm questioning what the best step forward is.
How much you've been bailing him out?
When I say bailing him out, probably to the tune of, I don't even know the exact number because my wife has taken over control of his finances. But if you're looking for dollar figure, it's somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 is probably what he owes us in arrears. But and whether we ever see that money,
probably not.
Probably not. But you know,
no. That's not. It's not that much money.
Salvation.
You know, I was expecting you to say 50 to 100.
No, not that bad. I've got my limits too.
Well, you tapped into something here, Ed. You kind of said it sort of in passing, but your wife and you are not on the same page regarding how much to sustain your son.
Mm-hmm.
Is he still presently under the thrall of cocaine?
He had an episode last week. For the most part, he's gotten away from that, and he swapped crack cocaine for meth. Dude,
oh boy!
Reasons he said it's cheaper. Yeah, what an improvement, huh?
So what he said was, I want to do this. I just don't want to spend that much money.
Sort of, yeah. There's always got to be some kind of vice, it seems like.
Does he come to work for you reliably?
I would say no. I'd say probably it's not uncommon for him to miss a day every week, if not. Certainly, I don't think more than 2 weeks goes by where he doesn't miss a day of work.
If he were not your son, would you fire him?
Yes.
The question becomes this, Ed. You said hit rock bottom. What do you think that would mean? Are you talking overdose? Are you talking diabetic coma? Are you talking suicide? What would rock bottom be in his situation?
I think suicide would be end of the game. I'm talking rock bottom, loses home, loses health insurance, living on the street.
Well, okay, then you're paying for that, right? You're paying for his house payment, his health insurance. You're doing all that.
Well, when he misses, he's been doing better since my wife took over management. My wife writes the payroll, and what she did is probably not legal, but she took over management of his money, and so now his house payments are being paid, but there's still some payments in arrears that we did. It's part of that $5,000 to $10,000 I told you about. But,
and he, of course, doesn't want to go
payments now, but
he doesn't want to go into any kind of rehab. No kind of rehab, right, Ed?
He went to rehab once, but he doesn't want to have anything to do with it again, and he won't even call into like AA meetings or any other kind of meetings.
So he's determined, I just want to take this stuff, I like what it does for me, and I can function. That just seems to be his modus operandi.
I think that's a good way to say it. I think he sees himself as functional. But
I think it's going to come down to a decision for you and your wife, which is how much are we going to continue? Now, again, if you say we're not paying his bills, he's paying his bills, we're just managing his money, that's a different ballgame. You're not putting out your own money. But my guess is you're adding your own money to the whole thing.
Not so much lately.
Okay.
We were, but not so much lately since my wife took over management of his money. But again, he can't do that by himself. He hasn't shown the discipline to do that by himself.
Well, he's probably too off and on intoxicated. Given that, you say to yourself, we found a compromise to keep this kid from totally self-destructing. Kid, he's not a kid. On the other hand, at some point, even if this isn't good enough, then we're going to have to decide how much are we going to sustain him. And there's always the risk. There is always the risk when somebody acts completely irresponsibly. And the only way that they've kept from self-destructing is that the parents have continued to put props underneath them. The question becomes, how long are you going to do it? That's really the question. And can you live with, if you don't do it, can you live with it? You say he'll become homeless. What would happen then? The question comes down to what is the risk and what is the risk tolerance. In other words, how big a chance can you take? For example, this young man's diabetic. If he loses his health insurance, does he lose access to insulin? If he loses access to insulin, he gets very ill and potentially dies. So would they say, I'm going to keep you on your health insurance? The rest of it's up to you. Or would they say, we're certainly not going to pay you for days you don't show up? I didn't ask that question, and obviously didn't have enough time to explore all that. What are they paying him? How much work is he giving them for what they're paying him? When parents are in these kinds of situations, these adults, this guy is an adult. He's not 19 anymore. He's 33. And it sounds like this is his pattern. It's durable. At what point do you say, I'm going to take a risk? And the risk is this. I will no longer do A, B, C, D, and E. I cannot predict what will happen if I stop. Then the question becomes, if what happens is what you most wanted to avoid, are you willing to take that chance? That's what it comes down to. In this situation, it sounds like mom is much less willing to take that chance than dad is. Dad's question, am I enabling this? Am I allowing it? Am I supporting it? Kind of says I am. That's sort of what I think he was saying. I don't think he had doubts about that. He said he and his wife don't agree. That's really common. And it isn't necessarily the wives that are the quote-unquote softer ones, if you want to use that word. I hesitate to use that word because it implies it's a better quality to allow this kind of stuff to go on. Many times it's the dads. I don't know, in my experience, if I were to put a number on which sex it was, I don't know. I'd be hard-pressed. It's almost like it's 50-50. Maybe a little bit more toward the moms willing to persevere longer. But the question is, what will happen if they say, we have decided to no longer do this? We will no longer pay your rent. Or we will pay you only so much for coming into work. We're not going to pay you heavily anymore because you're too unreliable. What will happen? My son made an interesting observation. My son Peter, he's 28. He said, Dad, and this reflects what Ed was saying, your generation, when you were on a self-defeating path downward and you hit bottom, that was a chance for you to bounce back up and straighten up. You had to hit bottom, and AA talks about that. You have to hit rock bottom, and then you're going to be most motivated. He said, so many in my generation, if we hit rock bottom, we stay down there and party with our friends. Now, one would think that this 33-year-old man has had a lot of years of basically just getting by. But apparently he gets by sufficiently to continue doing what he's doing. I personally, this is me, I would be willing to take a higher chance of cutting off my support because he is clearly, deliberately using chemicals. He won't stop. That's it. He's going to do it. So it's illegal. He's going to do it. He wants to do it. So how much am I indirectly subsidizing his use? That complicates the picture. This isn't just a kid. I'm starting. Anybody under 50 now, I start to call kid. This just isn't a young man who is saying, I can't get my life together. No, this is a young man who's saying, I've switched from one bad drug to another bad drug because it's cheaper. Economy is driving his behavior. The parents are forced. He's forcing mom and dad to decide. If they say, we can't live with what could potentially happen to him. See, that's only they know that. Because if it is, and I've had many parents tell me this, if he would become homeless, if he would drug overdose, worst case scenario, if he would kill himself, there's no way I could live with myself. At that point, then they are forced, I guess, to continue some level of allowing this young adult to live that way with their support. Because they've already said, I can't take the chance that would happen. Well, if you can't take the chance, then you can't make certain decisions anymore. That's it. Your risk tolerance is very low. And so you have to say, I will continue status quo and hope somehow through prayer, through some mysterious maturity, something will change in this young person's life. He'll meet a girl that straightens him out, have a religious conversion. He'll go to the hospital and get knocked on his feet. Who knows? But that's what they're hoping for. But the sad part of that is, the longer this goes on, generally the higher risk that something bad is going to happen.
Father Benedict Rochelle, Some great people have shown respect for God. Can I read you a little quotation from Albert Einstein, who many times showed a great respect for religion and was one of the great admirers of Pope Pius XII for his stand against the Holocaust during the Second World War. Einstein wrote, "The fairest thing we can experience is the mysterious. Is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of all true art and science. A knowledge of the existence of something we can't penetrate, of the manifestations of the profoundest reason and the most radiant beauty, which are only accessible to our minds in the most elementary form. It is this knowledge and this emotion that constitute the truly religious attitude." Oh my, so beautifully said.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
What does the eighth commandment demand of us? The Catholic Catechism says this commandment forbids misrepresenting the truth in our relations with others. This derives from the vocation of holy people to bear witness to their God who is truth and who wills the truth. Offenses against the truth, either by word or deed, are fundamental infidelities to God and thus undermine the foundation of our covenant with Him. The Old Testament tells us God is the source of all truth. His word is truth, as is His law. Jesus Christ is the whole of God's truth made manifest. To follow Christ is to live in the spirit of truth, says the Catechism. Jesus taught His disciples the unequivocal nature of truth when He instructed them, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything more is from the evil one." This is Peggy Stanton, and this has been the Order of Malta's Minute with the Catechism.
I tell you what, this Catholic radio station is just been a godsend. I listen to it in the morning when I go to work and at night when I come home. And even if I only have 5 minutes, I always get something.
Very nice to have you with me. I better get to it real quick because this is a short segment. Molly is calling from somewhere in the Midwest. She didn't give us the name of her city, town, place, block, address. Her sister called the Department of Human Services on them. I don't remember exactly what the situation was, what she reported. But Molly is saying, would that make us ineligible to adopt? Who called the Division of Human Services on you?
My sister. I feel like a few of my family members were in cahoots with it, but
what were you accused of?
Well, several different things. I think the main one was my husband had turned off the air conditioning on a hot day for punishment.
And
when they came out, and then also because we withdrew one of our children from a Catholic school to homeschool it. So we were able to actually prove to the DHS that, we are trying our best to, take care of our children and school them. I mean, I'm homeschooling, so I could show them the books if they wanted to see it. So they were okay with that. So basically they found nothing too terribly, they disagreed with, how my husband dealt with the discipline.
Well, they can disagree all they want. If you're not being abusive, they can disagree.
So what would you say about, turning off the air conditioning when it's a really hot day?
If, in fact, it presents some kind of danger. However, pretty much prior to the last 50 years, most houses didn't have any air conditioning at all. So if we say he's not stuffing them into a hot box, right? The windows are open, right? It's hot, correct?
Unfortunately, I failed on that one. I did not open the windows.
Well, you were living in the house, too, at the same time, right?
Yes, I was in the house, yes.
Yeah, so it was hot for everybody, but it wasn't dangerously hot, correct? You were making everyone uncomfortable.
It was dangerously hot outside.
Well, that's okay. Well, then I could understand that someone would say you got to rethink that one. All right, I got that. Okay. But you're saying the charges were unsubstantiated?
That's correct.
When we went to adopt, I forget which one of our children, and because that's your question, can you still adopt? When we went to adopt one of our children, we found out that we were on a database regarding abuse. And basically, my response was, what? What? Well, it turned out we were the ones that had to report someone. However, our name was there. So they asked us about that. Why are you on that base? I said, well, here's what happened. We weren't accused. We were reporting. And it was something we had to report. So if they are unsubstantiated, there's two things you can do, obviously. I think many of these adoption agencies would have differing criteria. Privately, I don't think that would be a problem. You are unsubstantiated, and the person who is placing the child for adoption privately can do what they wish regarding the parents, and especially if you were declared unsubstantiated. Okay, you were not declared abusive. So that I don't think that'll stop you, but the other thing you can do is you call DHS and you say, in your experience, has this essentially an unsubstantiated report? Has that stopped people from being able to adopt? Now, maybe you won't be able to adopt through Children's Services. That may be. I don't know what their principles and standards are about that. But there probably are many of adoption agencies that would not even be an issue. That'd be my guess. If anybody's listening who knows this, help me out here. I think it varies from place to place, organization to organization, and private to public, and all of that. I don't know how much I helped you there, Molly, but I think it does depend. This brings a much bigger issue. A lady come into my office, very distraught. She was a young mother, had two little ones. She'd been reported to Children's Services. The accusation was that she had been swimming with her two little kids, and the younger one, about, 18 months old or so, had a dark outfit on. And it was a hot day. He was fussy. He was crying. Somebody there turned her in as an unfit mother because her little 1.5-year-old had a dark outfit, which, of course, dark absorbs the sun more, and therefore that would be uncomfortable, and she was turned in. Another client came to me for other reasons, but it came up during the counseling that she had been turned into Children's Services by a relative. A relative who knew that she used the corner for discipline, and they thought that that was just totally inappropriate. Turned her in. Another lady called me and told me I was going to get a call from Children's Services because her son, who is about 16, was throwing a little temper fit. Not little. At that age, it's not little. And he was busting up some stuff. She made him go outside. She locked the door, and she threw his sleeping bag out and said, "You're going to sleep out in the backyard." Wasn't winter. Summer was fine. He's a camper. Kid loved to camp. He always camped out, slept in a sleeping bag. Children's Services called me. They said, "Did you advise her to do that?" I said, "Yeah, I did." "What would you have her do?" He was busting up her place. It wasn't dangerous out there. It wasn't 12 degrees. He's a camper. He's got a sleeping bag. So the person who called me sounded very young, sounded like somebody in her 20s. Backed off. What's my point here? Children's Services gets overwhelmed with referrals. It's very hard for them to keep up with, and they have to follow up on everything. They can't just simply say, "nah," without looking into it. Unfortunately, and I had a Children's Services worker who was a client. She told me, she confessed, she says, "We get a lot of these that we have to follow up on, but they turn out to be nonsense. They're used as a club by a relative or an ex-spouse. That's very common, an ex-spouse. And what has happened, what I've seen happen, and I'm hoping that a lot of those who work at children's services, they got a tough life, come to recognize it is not just a matter of, I think your discipline's inappropriate, or I don't agree with your discipline, or I think it's too harsh. The question becomes, is it abusive or neglectful? And even that can be fuzzy.
A call from God. Father Mitch Pacwa shares his experience.
I certainly had a bit of opposition. My father wasn't pleased with this at all, and he kept arguing with me. Once when I was 12, he said to me, "What do you want to be a priest for? Why don't you be a doctor? You don't have to be a priest to help people. You can be a doctor and get married, have kids." And I said to him then, "Dad, if I was a doctor and I help people get better, that would be very good. But later on, they're going to die anyway. So if I'm a priest and I hear somebody's confession and they go to heaven, that lasts forever. So that's better." And he didn't know what to say. And he continued to oppose the idea over the next years. Yet that didn't stop me. And even when he said, "I'm going to disinherit you if you become a priest." And on the day of my first Mass, he did. But as I also said to him then, he told me, "Okay, you're out of my will." I said, "Dad, I can't keep it anyway. It doesn't matter. I'm a Jesuit, and we can't keep the money, so it really doesn't affect me. The issue is I'm trying to follow what God, our Lord, is asking of me." And this has been where I have found the greatest joy, that doing what I believe through my own prayer and through reflection and thinking about it and moving from a little boy's idea of what a priest would be like all the way to now in my early 50s, realizing that this is exactly what I think is going to please God the most. And that's what I want to do, to please God.
For information on the priesthood or religious life, log on to www.ewtn.com/religiouslife.
I just wanted to start and say that I really enjoy your show. I've been listening to EWTN and found your show, and I really love your wit. I like your humor. I just think that you're a funny guy.
Did some surveys under the auspices of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN. We found out, it was kind of a formal survey, our listenership, that more radios are tuned to this program than are any other kitchen appliances. Yeah, doors. I think second was refrigerators. And I don't know how their reception was, but so just a little tidbit, little inside baseball information. This Look Back Friday, taking previous calls, replaying some parts of them, not the whole thing usually, and then I get to talk more about them, which is always my wish anyway. Jimmy from Pennsylvania has a 7-year-old daughter. If I remember the call, the question of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder has arisen.
My daughter is 7 years old. Recently, we received a diagnosis of ADHD from her doctor, which came from her teacher and my wife and myself kind of filling out an assessment sheet on her behavior, attention span, those things, because we're looking to get her a little bit more assistance at school to kind of help keep her focused. When I was younger, also received a diagnosis of ADD at the time, and am, as an adult now, mildly familiar with how I was able to overcome and persevere through some of those challenges, and just had to make some of my own adjustments. And I think it just took a long time to come to some of the realizations of what I needed to do to focus in those things. So here's my question, is that I am concerned that as my wife and I try to search for some resources to do the best job of guiding and parenting and helping to teach our daughter, that I need to find some, I hear the music there, that I need to find some resources that don't fall into the gentle parenting model and fall into more of the Dr. Ray's model of reality.
Oh, I like that. I like that. It makes a good book title. You touched upon something I'm going to, how should I put this? I'm going to talk about, I don't know if you heard, you probably didn't catch my monologue, my opening monologue, when I talked about some of the misconceptions regarding ADHD. Did you? Admit it.
I did not. I did
That's
not.
what just as I thought. Well, we can just hang up right now if that's the kind of respect I'm going to get. All right, I'm going to let it slide this time. Don't let it happen next time.
Thank you. Yes,
so I said there are certain things that I think are resulting in a heavy diagnosis of ADHD. I did not talk about what you just said, which is the rating forms. Typically, one of the more common diagnoses of ADHD happens when the teacher says, well, I just think there's some things here that we need to look into regarding her attention span, regarding her impulse control, regarding her acting out, whatever it might be. So you go to a doctor, either a physician. Typically it's a physician, it's a general practitioner, a family practitioner. That's what you did, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's a lot of times the way it is. And you get rating forms. They give you rating forms. The teacher fills one out, you fill one out. And lo and behold, whoa, look where your daughter scored. She is up there on these characteristics, right?
Right.
Yep. Now, there's two problems here, two cautions. Rating forms are very subjective. So if you have a certain perception of your daughter being a certain way, it's going to tone how you rate it. Secondly, how long did that, and I'm not impugning anyone, how long did that physician talk to you or your daughter?
She didn't talk to her. She talked to us. And I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. I mean, she spent a little bit of time.
Okay, that's a lot. Most of us 10 to 15. Yeah. So given that, it's to accurately diagnose this, you got to go through a lot. You got to get a social history. You got to find out what's going on in the home. Ideally, you observe the child in a classroom. You talk to the teacher. Now, almost nobody does that. That's the way you got to do this to get a very reliable diagnosis in a lot of cases. Since that didn't happen, and I'm not questioning the diagnosis. Don't mishear me. I'm just simply saying that if we look at this and we see your daughter exhibiting these symptoms that people say, oh, yeah, is she a behavior problem for you?
She responds. She responds to feedback. She's more of a problem with focus and being able to accomplish the simple things that we'll ask her to do or to stay kind of on task for any more than a very short amount of time.
So
we're getting a lot of that from school, a lot of feedback from school where she's not accomplishing her work in class.
Okay, so her symptom picture is more of a spacey, ditzy, drift off inattentiveness, right?
Yeah, that's probably right.
Okay. That responds a lot less to medication. That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing is, I don't know your daughter. It could be that right now the work's a little hard for her, for whatever the reason. Developmentally, maybe some learning quirks. It's hard for her. And the most natural response is to drift away. This is not easy for me. It doesn't come easy. It's no fun. And I'm going to do anything just to avoid it. I see that a lot. Okay? So that's a possibility. What you're going to be forced to do is have all the work come home, and she'll work at the table after school, and you monitor it and give her breaks, however you wish to do that, because otherwise what tends to happen is they fall further and further behind, and then 2 years from now they're going to say, I think you need to hold her back, which usually doesn't work too well. You also need to know what the child's overall, as measured by an IQ test, functioning is. Let's say that she gets an IQ of 92, which is still in the average range, but it's it's moving toward low average, which would mean that school doesn't come smoothly to her. That would explain some of this inattentiveness, perhaps. Dad said he didn't want gentle parenting, which is essentially it's really hard to define gentle parenting, but it's really swamped a lot of young parents, and it comes out of the philosophy that children are eminently reasonable, and as long as you just appropriately talk with them the right way, acknowledge their struggles, they will cooperate. How's that working for you? So in this case, they may be forced to monitor schoolwork, to keep this little one from falling further behind. If you don't monitor it, if you don't know what schoolwork she has to complete, she doesn't learn the skills. When she doesn't learn the skills over a year or two, and I've seen this happen a lot, then the question comes, do we hold her back? What I found in those cases, and this is kind of a lose-lose situation, you hold them back, I'm not sure it makes a whole lot of difference over time. I also would want to know what level of video entertainment she has, because school can't compete with any of that. The more of that there is, there's more chance she's going to be bored out of her head at school. That's a possibility. Is this immaturity? Overall, she's developing a little slower than the norm. So because of that, things like focus, perseverance are a little more sluggish. Maybe she's functioning, and this is really a gross speculation, 6 years of age, not 7. Would that explain some of these attention problems? It was kind of interesting. He used the word she responds. When I asked, is she a behavior problem? He said she responds. Is he saying that she accepts discipline? That if she does misbehave for the most part, when she's disciplined, it doesn't escalate? That's a good sign. Or is he saying, yeah, there's an awful lot of impulsive behavior. There's an awful lot of behavior that is, I don't know, sneaky or deceptive. I don't know. I mean, I would want to talk to him about all of that. I want to get the broadest picture I can get of this little 7-year-old girl's functioning. One of the complications we're having is that, by and large, and this used to be heresy among those who specialize in diagnosing ADHD. The heresy was it's totally neurological. It is on the tail end of the temperamental continuum, and therefore factors such as the amount of video input, entertainment, those kinds of things play no part. Research is starting to show that's not true. They play a part. And with more and more of our kids, especially immersed in very, very fast-paced, hyper-stimulating video games, computers, internet, school, by comparison, is just a sluggish, slow-moving experience that can't hold somebody's attention. I was talking to a lady last night. I was at a talk. She's from Lebanon. She emigrated to the U.S. when she was 20. And she said that she would go to school, come home, and generally have schoolwork until 10 o'clock at night. Every day of the week. And Saturday she would do schoolwork. She said that is the way she lived. It was a Catholic school in Lebanon. That is the way she lived all through school. Well, that just by and large doesn't happen with our kids. But she just accepted that as that was the way it was done. One might ask the question, okay, how does that then impact somebody's skill, if you will, at attending for longer periods of time? I believe ADHD is overdiagnosed. There's research that says this. There's also research that says it's underdiagnosed. But I saw a statistic once that said as much as 30% of boys in certain places in the South are diagnosed ADHD. Got to ask some tough questions. It's Dr. Ray.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more. The following program is brought to you in part by MyCatholicWill.com. Surveys show that more than half of Americans do not have a will. At MyCatholicWill.com, it takes as little as 15 minutes to write your will and secure a legacy of faith. MyCatholicWill.com is the exclusive online destination for creating a Catholic will. The process of writing a will is simple and now more accessible than ever. MyCatholicWill.com, a legacy of faith for those you love.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Have you ever been so grief-stricken and so heartsick that you can't see God? You can't see God in the tragedy. You can't see God in that cross. You can't see God in that situation. Why? You're enveloped in that grief. You're enveloped in fear. And God is out the window. You don't see Him standing right next to you.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866 Ave Maria or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
There is a test phenomenon called regression to the mean. Simplified, it says that when you do something over, when you fill out a survey form, take a test over. Okay, I'm definitely simplifying this, but what it means is that it regresses, it gets closer to average. So, to be a specific example, our caller said, Jimmy said, that they gave some rating forms to him and his wife and the teacher. They filled out these rating forms. And let's just say that their daughter fell in the 92nd percentile of distractibility or poor attention, however that was measured on the particular rating forms they used. If they were to take that again, say it would be given to them a month from now, there's a pretty good chance that she wouldn't score that high. It would regress. If the mean is 50%, it would regress closer to the mean. It wouldn't plummet, but it might go from 92 to 86. It's a certain test phenomenon that happens. It's something to consider because 92 would put her very close to the cutoff point, but 86 wouldn't. 86 would say, yeah, she's got some attention problems, but I'm not sure we can really diagnose this. That's another issue with the whole measurement thing. But keep in mind, too, that it's also any kind of measurement like that. It's very subjective. It's very, very subjective. I trust the teachers, but there is a confounding factor with teachers. They are trained in school. I use the word trained loosely. They're told about, instructed in school, how to look for this kind of stuff. And you tend to see what you look for. Teachers are quite sensitive to seeing ADHD or ADD in kids. if the kids are having some kind of attention problems, or in this case, this little girl was not completing her schoolwork in a timely way. So they point to attention. There could be a whole bunch of other things involved. It could be mild learning stuff. It could be home situation. It could be struggles in this little girl's life. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. So those are all things that just have to be taken into account. Got to go. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it so very, very much. One walk you want to keep your attention on, all the way to infinity. That's your walk with God.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.